Have you ever had a moment when, in the blink of an eye, the world around you suddenly felt unfamiliar and dangerous? Olivia Carter had a morning like that. She was sitting at the small desk in her Denver apartment, morning sunlight spilling through the window, glinting off a neat stack of unopened envelopes. Everything seemed ordinary, until Olivia froze at the sight of one return address printed in bold on a pristine white envelope. Bellamy Gardens, the most exclusive wedding venue in the city. Her heart skipped a beat. She couldn't remember ever receiving mail from them. Her hands trembled as she tore open the seal. Pages slipped free, the glossy letterhead catching the light. It was a wedding contract, and watering total, at the bottom of the page made her head spin, the 95 Zalozern. But it wasn't the number that stole her breath. It was the signature at the bottom. Her name, Olivia Carter, written so neatly, so convincingly, too perfect to be real. The glass of red wine on her desk tipped, spilling across the surface, leaving a jagged crimson stain that spread like cold blood. Olivia's body went rigid. Every loop of the letters, every dot over the I, painfully familiar. Not her handwriting, but the same flourishes she had seen her whole life. Chloe's handwriting. Her younger sister. In that instant, Olivia was dragged backward into memory, the summer at 17, when she worked 2 jobs to pay off Chloe's credit card debt, the college scholarship that was borrowed and never returned, the countless times her parents insisted she sacrifice for her sister. A lifetime of moments all bound together by the same refrain. You're the responsible one in this family. But today, staring at this forged contract, Olivia understood something chilling. This wasn't sacrifice anymore. This was a crime, a carefully staged conspiracy, crafted with the complicity of her own family. And this time, the price they wanted her to pay wasn't just money. It was her freedom, her future. Olivia sat frozen before the contract, the red wine stain spreading across the page like an old wound. Her palms were still trembling, and yet in her eyes something familiar began to surface. This wasn't the first time. Not the first betrayal. It was just the latest chapter in a book she had been forced to read since childhood. When her father died suddenly at 16, the family was thrown into chaos. Her mother, grieving and terrified of money problems, turned instinctively to Olivia. Overnight, a high school girl became the pillar of the family. While her classmates went to the movies or hung out at football games, Olivia was rushing through morning shifts at a cafe, then clocking in again at the grocery store late into the night. Her wages, meager, scraped together dollar by dollar, were never enough. Because Chloe, the baby sister, had already grown accustomed to being spoiled. Olivia would come home exhausted, carrying leftovers in a paper bag, only to watch Chloe flaunt a new pair of designer shoes or chatter about a beach trip with friends. Olivia will take care of it. Their mother would say half comfort, half command. And so the weight of responsibility settled on the older sister's shoulders, with no one ever asking if she could actually carry it. In her senior year of high school, Olivia's grandmother gave her money as a graduation gift, a sum she'd carefully saved in her mind for a laptop to fuel her dream of becoming an architect. But before she could buy it, her mother knocked on the bedroom door, voice syrupy, almost pleading. "Sweetheart, Chloe needs to go to Cancun with her friends. You know how cruel kids can be if she doesn't show up. Just lend us the money. We'll pay you back later." Of course, later never came. The laptop remained nothing more than a dream. At 19, Chloe bought her first used car. It broke down within weeks. Olivia was in her final year of college, scraping together rent for the dorm. But then came the phone call. "You're the responsible one. Your sister needs you." And just like that, Olivia's credit card was maxed out in a single night. Those memories, fragmented and sharp, swarmed back now like a hive of angry bees. Every piece fit into the same pattern. Whenever the family had a problem, they turned to Olivia. Not once did they thank her. Not once did they ask if she could afford it. The only refrain, over and over, "You're the responsible one. You have to carry it." That cycle stretched through all of her youth. She graduated college without a party because the money went to Chloe's makeup classes. Her first year at work passed without a single vacation because she was still paying off a loan. her father had begged for in a failed business venture. To outsiders, Olivia was the devoted daughter, the perfect big sister. But inside, every time she pulled out her wallet, it felt like a knife carving away another piece of her youth. And then came the Sunday dinner 2 months ago, etched into her memory like a scar. Claile flashed a diamond ring across the table, smiling as if she owned the world. Her father refilled his glass and declared with certainty, "This wedding has to be grand. And Olivia, you'll take care of it. You just got that promotion, didn't you?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to her. Olivia mustered every ounce of courage, whispering, "I can't, I'm still paying off student loans." The words barely audible. The room froze. Her mother sighed in disappointment, her father's brows furrowed. Chloe's lips curled into a pout. And then the familiar mantra returned, sharp as ever. Family means sacrifice. Have you forgotten? That night, Olivia sat alone in her room, staring at the calluses on her palms, at the dark circles under her eyes in the mirror. For the first time, she asked herself, if I'm not their wallet, then who am I? Now, with the forged contract in front of her, the answer was clearer than ever. To them, she wasn't a sister. She wasn't a daughter. She was a walking bank account. And the cruelest part, her own flesh and blood had quietly groomed Claile to perfect her signature, stealing not just her money, but her very name, her freedom, her future. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. The apartment lay in darkness, lit only by the cold blue glow of her laptop screen. Every tick of the wall clock pounded against her temples, reminding her that her life had been pushed to the edge. She opened her inbox and typed one word, wedding. Dozens of results appeared, ads, boutique announcements, and then one thread made her heart stop. Subject line, Olivia's contribution. Her fingers trembled as she clicked. The first line hit her like a blade. She'll give in. Olivia always does. Remember the car repairs for Claile? She said no at first, then still pulled out her card. Don't worry. She's used to it. The sender, her mother. Olivia's breath caught in her throat, as if an invisible hand were choking her. She scrolled further. Her father's reply, "I have to keep appearances. This wedding will be the family's biggest event. Olivia has a steady job. Of course she can cover it." But the words that cut the deepest came from Claile herself, her little sister. Light, casual, calculated. If she doesn't agree, just use her credit card. She's got the limit. And besides, Olivia never makes a scene. Olivia's vision blurred. The letters danced across the screen, each one carving into her chest. She leaned back in her chair, tears spilling freely, not out of surprise, but out of confirmation. Deep down, she had clung to the hope that her family was merely careless, that maybe they didn't realize the weight they put on her. But here it was, in black and white, not neglect, a plan, a conspiracy, deliberate, coordinated. Nausea rose in her throat. Olivia stumbled into the bathroom, clutching the sink. The reflection staring back at her was pale, eyes swollen. And the woman in the mirror was no longer a victim. She was someone being slowly destroyed, unless she fought back. She returned to her desk, opened a blank Excel sheet. Her fingers hovered, shaky at first, then firmed with resolve. At the top, she typed, line by line, she began to document $1,200 $200 for Chloe's Cancun trip, $3,500 for the broken-down car, $2,000 for her father's failed business venture, not $800 for Chloe's makeup course, $5,000 for her mother's sudden hospital bills. On and on it went. Cold, merciless numbers. By the time dawn spilled across her window, the total glared back at her $58,473. All hers to bear. And now, they wanted to add a $95,000 for a wedding that wasn't even hers. In the silence of the room, Olivia whispered, "They've never seen me as family. I've only ever been their wallet." A wave of anger surged through her chest, tangled with grief. But within the tears, something else flickered. Fragile, yet undeniable strength. For the first time, she didn't want to let it slide. She didn't want to stay silent. She sat up straight, wiped her face, and saved the file. The morning light caught her reflection on the laptop screen, her eyes burning with clarity. Inside her chest, a decision settled. Final, irrevocable. This game is over. The next morning, Olivia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing on her desk. She had just closed out a sleepless night, tallying up every debt her family had piled on her. 58,473 etched into her mind, cold as a sentence. The notifications kept flashing, one from her mother, another from her sister. Sis, I just tried on this new wedding dress. Gorgeous! It's only an extra 2,500. We have to upgrade, right? Chloe's text came with a photo. Her smiling wide, draped in white silk, radiant as if nothing in the world could touch her. Before Olivia could respond, the phone rang. Her mother. Olivia hesitated, then answered. Olivia, did you see your sister's message? That dress is perfect for her. A wedding is the most important day of a woman's life. We can't cut corners. You're her sister. You understand. The words pressed against her chest like a weight. In the past, she would have stayed quiet, nodded, let the money vanish from her account without protest. But this time she drew in a sharp breath. I'm not paying another dime, Mom, Olivia said, calm but firm. Silence. Then came the sigh, the familiar one, heavy with disappointment, sharpened into guilt. Olivia, this isn't like you. You're our good daughter, the one who thinks of family first. Have you forgotten how we raised you? Family means sacrifice. That phrase, sacrifice for the family, had shackled Olivia her entire life. But now, the chain no longer held. She answered quietly, Sacrifice doesn't mean letting someone steal your life, Mom. Then she hung up, heart pounding in her chest. It was the first time Olivia had ever said no outright. Her whole body shook, but inside, a flicker of light began to glow. Something she hadn't felt in years. Something dangerously close to freedom. But her family wasn't about to back down. Less than an hour later, Chloe called on video chat, her pout already loaded with anger. What the hell are you doing? Mom said you refused to pay for the flowers. That's humiliating. Everyone in the family already knows you're covering the costs. Are you trying to embarrass us? Olivia stared straight into the screen. I never agreed to pay Chloe. That the 95,000 contract is a forgery. And you know it. Chloe's face flickered, just for a second, but she quickly recovered. You're delusional. The signature's yours. Who's gonna believe you? Olivia felt the anger rising, but instead of screaming, she let a cold smile curl across her lips. We'll see who believes me. She ended the call. The room fell quiet, her heartbeat loud in her ears. She sank into her chair, drawing a deep breath. For the first time, she didn't feel small. For the first time, she hadn't run from the confrontation. No tears, no shame. Inside, a new thought took root. If I can say no once, I can do it again, and again. Until the day I finally walk free. She opened her laptop, not to answer vendors, not to bend to another demand, but to search for something of her own. A new email draft appeared on the screen. Subject line, application design position, Seattle branch. Sunlight streamed through the window, washing across her tired face. And in her eyes, weary as they were, a spark of resolve had begun to shine. Her first act of resistance had been planted. Olivia knew the road ahead would be brutal. But for the first time, she was walking it. That weekend, Olivia received a text from her mother. Sunday dinner. The whole family. We need to discuss something important, short. No explanation, no request. Just the same commanding tone she had known her whole life. Olivia stared at the message, her chest tightening with the weight of foreboding. When she stepped into the old house on the outskirts of Denver, the familiar smell of home, cooked food lingered in the air, but it carried no warmth. The living room was crowded with relatives, faces both familiar and strangely distant. They all smiled at Olivia, but the smiles felt loaded, expectant, as though she had accomplished something extraordinary without ever being told. Our daughter is here! Her father announced from beside the fireplace, his voice swelling with pride. Everyone, this is Olivia, the one who decided to sponsor her sister's wedding at Bellamy Gardens. Isn't that wonderful? The room erupted in applause, cheers, admiring looks. Olivia stood frozen, throat dry. It was as if she'd been shoved onto a stage in a play she hadn't agreed to join. I never said that. Olivia managed, her voice small, drowned out by the clapping. Her mother quickly swept in, looping her arm through Olivia's and whispering in her ear, Don't make a scene. Everyone already knows. You wouldn't want to embarrass the family, would you? Then she turned back to the guests with a dazzling smile. What couldn't be more proud of Olivia? In the corner, Claile emerged in a pale pink dress, hair in perfect curls, lips painted red. She threw her arms around Olivia, whispering sweetly, "You wouldn't want to cause a spectacle here, right? Everyone's watching." Her voice was honey, but her eyes were sharp as glass. Olivia stood there, numb, her mind spiraling. Memories collided. Every time she had been forced to yield, every time she'd been smothered into silence and shame. An aunt approached, clasping Olivia's hands with tears of admiration. "You're remarkable, Olivia. Not everyone would sacrifice so much for their family. Claile is lucky to have you." Each word landed like a blade. No one asked what she truly thought. No one questioned whether the contract was forged. No one even wondered why she stayed quiet. In their eyes, her sacrifice was already fact. Dinner unfolded like a rehearsed performance. Her father boasting about lavish details of the wedding. Her mother bragging about the generosity of her eldest daughter. Claile basking in praise, radiant and adored. And Olivia sat there, an outsider in her own family, every word tightening the invisible noose around her throat. Then came the breaking point. Her father's voice dropped into a grave register. "Olivia, you cannot turn your back on your family. We raised you, gave you everything, made you successful. Now it's time to repay us. Family is blood. Don't forget that." Olivia lifted her head, locking eyes with him. Behind the pain, a quiet defiance burned like embers beneath ash. Her voice shook, but it was clear. "Repayment doesn't mean letting you steal my dignity, or my freedom." The room went still. For one suspended moment, silence pressed heavy over them all. Then came her mother's weary sigh, the same refrain Olivia had heard her entire life, like a tired old record. "You've changed, Olivia. You've become selfish. What will people think if Claile's wedding isn't what we promised? Do you want this family to be humiliated?" Olivia didn't answer. Her hand clenched tight beneath the table. Inside her chest, her heart thundered, not from fear, but from a resolve rising stronger than ever before. After the suffocating dinner at her parents' house, Olivia drove back to her small apartment through the night, the road stretching endlessly ahead. Streetlights flickered past her window, each beam cutting into her eyes, but she was too drained to wipe away the tears. In her head, the accusation still echoed, "Family is blood. You're selfish? What will people say?" She collapsed against the steering wheel as soon as the car rolled into the parking lot. Her whole body shook, too wary to even lift her hands. Then her phone buzzed a new email. Subject line, "Seattle Design Group interview invitation." Olivia blinked, stunned, and opened it. Her red-rimmed eyes widened as she read the words, "We were very impressed with your portfolio. We would like to invite you to a virtual interview next week." In that moment, something ignited inside her. Seattle. 3 simple syllables, yet they cracked open an entirely new horizon. 3 syllables powerful enough to spark a fragile flame of hope. That maybe, just maybe, she could leave Denver. Leave the cycle of exploitation. Leave the suffocating dinners filled with demanding eyes. The next day at work, she confided in Ethan, the one colleague she truly trusted. He was the only person who had seen her stay late at the office, drained by calls from a family that treated her like an ATM. Seattle, huh? Ethan raised his brows, then smiled knowingly. "Olivia, that might be the fresh start you need. Better pay, better environment, but more importantly, freedom. A freedom." Olivia repeated the word silently, as if testing it on her tongue, a word that had never truly belonged to her. Ethan rested a hand on her shoulder. His voice softened. "I've heard you talk about your family pressures for years. But Olivia, forging your signature, that's not family responsibility anymore. That's a crime. If you don't get out, they'll keep dragging you under. You deserve a different life." The words lingered long after he left, gentle, but echoing like thunder inside her. That night, she sat before her mirror, staring at her own face. Hollow cheeks, tired eyes. Yet beneath the exhaustion, she saw the outline of someone else. A woman stronger, steadier, no longer willing to surrender. She opened her laptop, logged into LinkedIn, and began updating her profile, adding projects she had once been too modest to show. Her fingers, once shaky, moved with purpose as she typed out an email confirming her interview with Seattle Design Group. Outside the window, the night wind stirred the trees, brushing against the glass. For the first time in years, the air felt lighter. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother. Claile wants fireworks for the wedding. Approve it right away. Olivia stared at the screen, pressed her lips together, then held down the notification, choosing mute. No panic, no fear, just a steady, growing resolve. I'm not answering anymore. Not this time. Not ever again. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and whispered, Seattle. That's where it begins. And for the first time in countless nights, Olivia drifted into deep sleep, dreaming of a city where the light was no longer a shackle, but an invitation to freedom. One Saturday morning, Olivia received an invitation to a family brunch. She could already guess it would be another stage performance, but she drove over anyway. Part of her wanted to see just how many more scripts her family could write. The house buzzed with chatter and laughter. Claile emerged from the kitchen, cheeks flushed, lips painted red, her silk dress shimmering. In her hands was a thick stack of papers. Beside her, a woman Olivia had never met stepped forward. Poised, polished, clad in a fitted business dress, her hair perfectly styled, 3 glossy portfolios tucked under her arm. This is Marissa Williams, her mother announced proudly, eyes shining as if she were introducing a celebrity. The top wedding planner in the city. Marissa will be working directly with you, Olivia, since you're the one approving all the expenses. Every eye in the room turned toward her, waiting for a reaction. Olivia's pulse quickened, but this time, instead of panicking, she calmly sat down, her face composed. Marissa opened the folder, her tone brisk and professional. It's an honor, Olivia. Here are the updated invoices with some new upgrades: a string quartet, fireworks, imported orchids from Singapore. That's an additional $15,000. Olivia flipped through the pages. The charges rolled like waves crashing one after another. $3,000 for hand-embroidered napkins, $5,000 for Broadway, style theatrical lighting, $7,000 for a fireworks finale. Each page bore the same bold line, approval required. O. Carter. As she looked up, her eyes sharp as glass. Why is my name on every invoice when I never agreed to any of this? The room froze. Claile jumped in quickly, her voice sugar sweet. Oh, you're just overthinking. I told Marissa you'd cover it. You always do. Didn't you once say, Claile deserves the very best? Olivia locked eyes with her sister, a faint smile curling at her lips. No, I never said that. And I want to see the original contracts. Marissa faltered, caught off guard, but Claile forced a laugh. She just wants to double-check, that's all. Don't worry. Olivia tapped her fingers lightly on the table, her voice calm but unyielding. I want every document. All of it. Her parents stared at her, stunned, as Olivia pulled out her phone and quietly began photographing each page. Every forged signature, every suspicious line item, every inflated cost. Her heart pounded, but it no longer felt like fear. It felt like power, something new, something solid. Her mother tried to smooth things over, forcing a laugh. Olivia, don't be so formal. We're family. We trust each other. Olivia's smile was cold. Trust doesn't mean forgery. The air in the room turned heavy. Claile poured another glass of juice, laughing too brightly, but a flicker of worry flashed in her eyes. When brunch finally ended, Olivia stepped out onto the back porch, inhaling deeply. In her bag now lay a collection of undeniable proof. The April breeze was sharp, but it swept away her fatigue. She knew she had just crossed an important threshold. This wasn't just about saying no anymore. It was about preparing for the real fight. She texted Ethan the photos with a simple message. We've got our first evidence. Her phone buzzed almost instantly with his reply. Hold on to it, Olivia. This is your weapon. Olivia pressed her lips together, gripping her phone tightly. For the first time, she didn't feel cornered. For the first time, she had a way out, and she wasn't going to let them take it away again. In the days after that dramatic brunch, Olivia lived as though she had 2 parallel lives. One on the surface, where she still went to work, still answered office emails, still showed up at family dinners with the same hollow smile. And another, hidden life, quiet, secret, but growing stronger in the dark, the life of a woman preparing to escape. She started with small steps. Late at night, When the building had fallen silent, Olivia opened her laptop and searched for apartments in Seattle. Most were far beyond her budget. But then she stopped at one, a modest one-bedroom, white walls, a tiny balcony overlooking a park. Nothing extravagant, but clean, peaceful. More importantly, just 20 minutes from Seattle Design Group's office. She typed out an inquiry to the landlord, her fingers trembling for a moment before finding their rhythm again. When a positive reply arrived, her heart leapt in a way it hadn't in months. That apartment wasn't just a place to live. It was a symbol, a beginning. In parallel, she called a moving company. The 14th, Olivia said clearly over the phone. Midday. Exactly noon? Any special reason? The man on the line asked. Olivia pressed her lips together. Let's just say my family will be gone then. I need to leave before they return. The appointment was set. Olivia circled the date in red on her calendar. For the first time in her life, she held a secret larger than any lie her family had spun. She also began preparing documents. Each night, Olivia sat at her kitchen table, carefully sorting through invoices, bank statements, printed text messages, each stack sealed into a thick envelope labeled evidence. This wasn't just a plan to leave, it was a plan to sever. To make sure she could never be dragged back, Ethan, co-worker, and now her quiet ally, remained close by. He often dropped by her apartment in the evenings, bringing takeout or coffee, listening as Olivia mapped out each step. I opened a new account in Seattle, she whispered one night. I'll have my paychecks deposited there the moment I start. They'll never find another dime of mine again. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with quiet pride. Olivia, you're taking your life back. The weekend before her online interview, Olivia stood alone at the window, staring at Denver's skyline glittering in the night. For years, she had lived here like a shadow, drained dry by the people who should have loved her most. But in just a few more weeks, she would step into a different chapter. Her phone buzzed. A message from Claile. Orsis. I went ahead and booked the fireworks. They're gorgeous. I told the planner you'd approve. Don't let me down. Olivia looked at the screen, sighed, and set the phone face down on the table. No stabbing pain this time, only a cold detachment. Inside, a voice rang clear and steady, the 14th. They'll never see me the same way again. The 14th arrived faster than Olivia expected. All morning, she paced her apartment, each step heavy but resolute. On the kitchen counter sat a white envelope, prepared in advance. Inside was a short letter and a ceramic mug, glued back together, the same mug that had shattered the day she discovered the forged contract. Its jagged cracks still showed, proof that some things, once broken, can never be made whole again. Around 10 a.m., Olivia glanced out the window and saw her mother's familiar SUV pulling away. Inside, Claile shone in a pastel dress, laughing, snapping selfies on her phone. Her father gripped the steering wheel, stern and composed, as though the family's world was still firmly under his control. Olivia knew where they were headed the cake tasting, and that was the window of time she had calculated. 15 minutes later, a green moving truck pulled up outside. 2 men in uniform climbed out and knocked. Olivia opened the door, her voice steady. 3rd floor. Everything's packed. Boxes neatly labeled. Books, kitchenware, keepsakes. Each one prepared in silence over long nights, while the neighborhood slept. She stood aside as the movers carried her life piece by piece out the door. Her pulse raced like a storm beneath her ribs, but under it all was something startlingly new relief. Her phone buzzed non-stop on the counter. A string of frantic messages from Claile lit up the screen. Sis, approve the orchids now. Imported, don't delay. The planner needs your decision on lighting. Why aren't you answering? If you ruin this wedding, I swear I'll never forgive you. Olivia flipped the phone face down. The vibration kept humming against the wood, but to her it was nothing more than a swarm of flies outside the window. Annoying, but irrelevant. When the last box was gone, Olivia picked up the white envelope and placed it neatly on the table. She looked around the apartment one final time, the walls she had once leaned against in exhaustion, the polished wood table she had restored with her own hands, the shelves lined with design notes. For years, this apartment had been her only refuge. Now, it was just a cage filled with memories. Before stepping out, Olivia turned back, whispering like a vow, "I will never return to the person I used to be." The door closed. The lock clicked shut, a period at the end of a chapter. On the road to Seattle, the moving truck rolled forward, leaving Denver glittering behind in the midday sun. Olivia sat in the front seat, one hand resting on the bag stuffed with envelopes of evidence. She knew the real battle wasn't over. Her family would rage, scream, claw to drag her back. But this time, she was one step ahead. As the truck merged onto the highway, Olivia lowered the window, letting the wind rush across her face. The sensation was a baptism, a rebirth. For the first time in years, she breathed not as a captive, but as a free woman. 3 days after Olivia left Denver, the news began to flood in. Not through her phone. She had blocked nearly every family contact. But through friends, co-workers, even distant relatives who reached out, asking questions. That afternoon, sitting in her new Seattle apartment as sunlight slanted through the small window, Olivia opened her inbox. The subject line jumped out. Urgent. Payment deadline Bellamy Gardens. The email was addressed to both her and Claile. The message was brief, but firm. "I have been informed that the signature on this contract does not match. Unless a responsible party provides payment within 72 hours, the reservation will be canceled." Olivia closed her eyes and drew in a long breath. In that moment, she knew the castle of lies her family had built was beginning to crack. The next day, a relative called, voice tight with urgency. "Olivia, what's going on? Uncle Jim said Bellamy Gardens called your parents demanding $22,000 up front. Everyone's buzzing. Did you change your mind?" Olivia kept her tone even. "I never agreed in the first place." Then she hung up. In the days that followed, chaos spread like wildfire. Claile broke down in tears at the florist when her imported orchid order was canceled. Olivia's mother dialed every cousin and in-law, begging for small loans to salvage their reputation. Her father stormed through his golf circle, insisting it was all just a minor misunderstanding. But no excuse could bury the truth. A friend texted Olivia, "You wouldn't believe it. Your relatives are whispering everywhere. No one knew the wedding contract wasn't signed by you. People are saying your parents went too far." Olivia read the message, set her phone aside. No stabbing pain this time. Instead, a strange calm. Like the storm was raging elsewhere, but she had already stepped out of its eye. Another message arrived from Tara, Chloe's bridesmaid. "Olivia, is it true you never agreed to pay? Chloe swears otherwise. But now the planner says the signature's in question. I don't know who to believe." Olivia typed back simply, "Believe the paperwork. Paper doesn't lie." Meanwhile in Denver, her family unraveled. Debts they couldn't cover. Whispers in the community. Eyes of suspicion from relatives. The once proud household became a stage for humiliation. Her parents, who once boasted of their eldest daughter's generosity, now stood accused of deceit by their own friends and neighbors. And Chloe, so used to indulgence, sat sobbing in her room, calling Olivia over and over, only to be met with endless rings. One evening, Olivia received a voicemail from her father. "Family is blood, Olivia. You can't do this. If this wedding is canceled, it will be a disgrace we'll carry forever. You must come back. You must take responsibility." Olivia listened to the end, then deleted it. No guilt, no hesitation. Only clarity. That disgrace isn't mine. It's the price of their years of manipulation and theft. In her Seattle apartment, Olivia sat by the window, watching strangers bustle along the street below. The city was noisy, unfamiliar, but alive with possibility. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "At last, justice is beginning to take shape." Seattle welcomed Olivia with a steady drizzle of early summer rain. The city was nothing like Denver. Lively yet liberating, modern yet carrying the comforting aroma of fresh coffee drifting from corner cafes. In her new apartment, with its white walls and pale wooden floors, Olivia began piecing her life back together, starting with the smallest details. She hung up the seaside painting she had once tucked away in storage because it didn't fit the old place. She rearranged her bookshelf, running her fingers over the design books that had carried her through every step of her career. And in the mornings, she opened the balcony doors, letting the damp air roll in with the scent of rain, breathing deeply. Every breath here felt different, lighter, freer, untainted by the heavy stench of family pressure. On her first day at Seattle Design Group, Olivia slipped on a navy blazer and walked into an office glowing with natural light. New colleagues greeted her with warm handshakes and easy smiles. During the first team meeting, when her manager assigned extra work beyond her scope, Olivia took a breath, smiled politely, and replied, "I'm sorry, but that goes beyond the hours we agreed upon. I can help with revisions later, but I can't take it all on." The room paused in surprise, then her manager nodded. "Thanks for being clear. We'll adjust." Back at her desk, Olivia's heart pounded, but this time it was with pride. She had said no, and the world hadn't collapsed. In fact, it felt lighter. At lunch, she joined her new coworkers at a small Italian bistro nearby. They asked about her interests, about the projects she was tackling. For the first time in years, Olivia laughed, genuine laughter, not the strained smile she used to hide her exhaustion. That evening, Ethan, her old friend who still checked in, sent her a package. A leather-bound journal with a handwritten note. "Use this to write down what's truly yours." Olivia opened it and wrote her first line. First day in Seattle. I am free. On the weekend, she wandered through the farmer's market. Vendors greeted her with easy warmth, and one elderly woman slipped her a sprig of lavender for free. Olivia carried it home and placed it in a glass jar on her dining table. The gentle fragrance filled the apartment, and she smiled softly, remembering the years she had been trapped in other people's expectations. "I've stepped out," she whispered, in one session with her therapist, a space she sought to untangle the bindings of her past. Olivia recounted her journey. The doctor listened carefully, then said gently, "The first time you say no is always the hardest. But Olivia, every time you repeat it, you're redefining yourself. You're not just leaving behind a toxic family. You're learning to own your life." That sentence echoed in her mind for the rest of the week. Each time she refused an unreasonable request, each time she carved out an afternoon for herself, each time she laughed at something small, it felt as if she was reclaiming another piece of the youth they had stolen. That night, Olivia sat on her balcony, watching the rain patter softly against the streets of Seattle. In her hands was a steaming cup of tea, lavender scent lingering in the air. She no longer felt empty. Surrounded by new work, new friends, and a newfound respect for herself, Olivia realized family wasn't only defined by blood. Family could also be the people who chose to stay, not for money, but for love. And for Olivia, the journey of healing had only just begun. 3 months after leaving Denver, Olivia sat in her small Seattle apartment, morning light streaming across the newly arranged bookshelves. On the dining table sat a vase of lavender, beside it the cracked ceramic mug she had once glued back together, now serving as a pen holder. The fractures were still visible, etched into its surface, unerasable. But she no longer looked at them with pain. She looked at them with gratitude, because those cracks had pushed her to break free from the invisible chains. That morning, Olivia opened her journal, a habit she had kept faithfully since arriving in Seattle. She wrote, "I once believed family duty meant unconditional sacrifice. But now I understand true kinship is never built on exploitation. It must be built on respect and love." She thought back to those earlier months, the heavy dinners, the relentless phone calls, the forced swipes of her credit card. She remembered her mother's sighs, her father's clipped voice, Chloe's constant stream of demanding texts. They had once brought her to her knees. But now, looking back, Olivia no longer trembled. It all felt like a chapter closed, making room for something brighter. One weekend afternoon, she strolled along the river with a few new colleagues. A younger woman in the group confessed how her family was pressuring her to cover her brother's tuition. Olivia listened quietly, then smiled gently. "Remember this. You have the right to set boundaries. A family that truly loves you will never ask you to trade away your future." The girl fell silent, struck, and Olivia realized just how far she herself had come to be able to speak those words. Inside her, a truth crystallized: forgiveness may take time, but learning to protect yourself must begin now. No one has the right to steal your freedom, your dignity, or your future, not even under the name of family. That night, Olivia sat on her balcony, watching Seattle shimmer with city lights. She spoke softly, as though to an unseen audience. Maybe all of us have faced the pressure to sacrifice to please others, especially within our families. But if that sacrifice only drains you, if it only feeds someone else's selfishness, then it isn't love. It's a chain. She paused, drew in a long breath, then continued. The lesson I've learned is this: you have the right to say no. You have the right to walk away. And most importantly, you have the right to build a new family, not of blood, but of choice. Family is the people who stay beside you, not for money or benefit, but for love. Olivia sipped her tea, a small smile playing on her lips. For the first time in years, she felt no guilt when thinking of the past. She knew she hadn't just run away. She had stood up. She had reclaimed her life. And she had learned the most important lesson of all. Freedom begins the moment you choose to protect yourself,